When I came back home after 3 years overseas, I thought the hardest part was going to be adjusting to civilian life again. Turns out it was reclaiming my own land. I still remember the exact moment my tires crunched over the gravel, and I saw that shiny electronic gate blocking the dirt road my grandfather built with his bare hands. A robotic voice barked through a speaker asking for a resident access code. And before I could even process it, here came this woman flying down the hill in a golf cart, sunglasses bouncing, yelling that I was trespassing on her property. I just rolled my window down, stayed calm, and held up the deed, the one with my grandfather's signature from 1986. Her fake smile melted into pure panic. That was the moment I realized I'd come home to a war zone of a different kind. My name's Daniel Mercer. I'm a 34-year-old combat engineer who spent the last 3 years in Kuwait and Syria building things that kept people alive. While I was halfway across the world, someone named Victoria Hale decided my family's 40-acre lakefront property didn't belong to us anymore. She called it Silver Ridge Estates, built herself a $500 metal gate, installed cameras pointed right into my cabin windows, and started charging my elderly neighbors $50 a pop just to visit their grandkids at the lake. The nerve of it almost felt unreal, like I was walking through a bad dream. That land wasn't just property to me. My grandfather, George Mercer, bought it back when you could still chase the American dream without selling your soul. He cleared every tree by hand, built a cabin from pine logs he milled himself, and left pencil marks on the beams that are still there today. Every family memory we ever had, birthdays, reunions. 4th of July, fireworks happened under that roof. When he passed while I was deployed, the cabin and land became mine. He left me something that couldn't be replaced. But Victoria, she was something else. Mid-50s, recently divorced, moved up from St. Louis with more bitterness than a burned pot of coffee. She showed up at Silver Ridge about 2 years into my deployment with a fancy SUV designer boots and a mission to bring order to what she called an unregulated lake community. She bought the biggest concrete mansion in 3 counties, built her own retaining wall right into the shoreline, and within months started calling herself the community director. No election, no vote, no legal paperwork, just ego. Her first move was genius. I'll give her that. She sweet-talked a county clerk into reclassifying our old public access road as a private community entry. The moment that happened, she built that electronic gate, claimed the road maintenance was privately funded, and started collecting so-called dues. The part that still makes my blood boil. She told everyone I died overseas, claimed my land was abandoned, and that she was temporarily managing it to protect community values. By the time I got home, she'd moved my grandfather's photographs into the shed and changed every lock. I could have yelled, could have smashed that gate down with my truck. But instead, I did what the Army taught me: gather intel before you strike. I spent a week at the county courthouse flipping through dusty records until my fingers were gray with paper dust. What I found would have made a prosecutor smile. There was no official HOA, no registration with the state, no articles of incorporation. Victoria's so-called Silver Ridge Estates existed only in her imagination and a few Word documents she probably downloaded from the internet. But the motive behind all this was even better. Her divorce settlement required her to keep her property's assessed value above $400,000, or she'd lose her alimony. Lake access raises property values by about 30%. She wasn't running an HOA. She was staging a financial heist disguised as community improvement. She'd been collecting road fees from 8 different families, pocketing $2,000 a month, with no maintenance records, no receipts, just greed. When I finally confronted her at the gate again, I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "You've got 30 seconds to move your car off my land or I'll have the sheriff tow it." Her voice cracked as she said, "This is my community now. I leaned in, smiled, and said, "Then you're about to lose it." The next morning, a thick envelope showed up, fake legal documents demanding I pay back dues, environmental compliance penalties, and a $600 gate access reinstatement fee. That was the moment I decided this wasn't just about my property anymore. She'd been bleeding my neighbors dry, preying on elderly folks too scared to fight. So I called in help. My closest ally became Rachel Kim, an attorney from 2 lots down who'd been quietly collecting evidence against Victoria for months. Then there was Tom Patterson, who ran the local bait shop and lost 40% of his business because visitors were being charged to fish. And old Margaret Dunn, our 80-year-old neighbor, who had a file drawer full of Victoria's fake invoices and threats. Together we built a battle plan, legal, not violent. We gathered every fake invoice, every photograph, every witness statement. We discovered she'd filed a fraudulent lien against my property, tried to bribe a county engineer with $5,000 to make her road classification permanent, and even hired a private investigator to stalk me. The guy actually reached out to me later. Turns out she'd asked him to plant a bag of weed near my cabin and photograph it as evidence of criminal activity. He refused, recorded her, and handed me the proof. That recording became the bomb that blew up her entire operation. By the time the county got involved, it wasn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. The State Revenue Department opened a fraud investigation for her unlicensed property management company, and our local paper ran the headline, "Veteran returns to find property stolen by fake HOA president." Victoria didn't back down, though she doubled down. She started posting on Facebook about how I was a dangerous vet with violent tendencies, tagging local groups, and even calling the base where I'd served, claiming I needed psychiatric help. She crossed a line you just don't cross. That's when my Army JAG contact stepped in. He wrote a formal letter warning her that filing false reports about a soldier's mental health is a federal offense. Meanwhile, Rachel filed for a quiet title action, basically a legal nuke that wipes away all fake claims and restores your rightful ownership. The final showdown came at the county commission hearing. The room was packed, neighbors, reporters, even a Channel 7 camera crew. Victoria walked in late high heels, clacking, clutching a binder full of fake documents. She launched into this speech about being terrorized by a violent veteran. When she finished, the county attorney stood, cleared his throat, and said, "Ms. Hale, your organization doesn't exist. You've been collecting funds under false pretenses and filing fraudulent liens. You're under investigation for multiple felonies." The color drained from her face. I stood, held up my deed, and said quietly, "This is my land. It always has been. You just thought no one would come home to defend it. You could have heard a pin drop." Then the sheriff stepped forward and handed her a warrant. That sound paper tearing from its pad felt like the sweetest justice I'd ever heard. Within a week, the county tore down her illegal gate. The hum of diesel engines and the crash of steel hitting gravel sounded like freedom. Victoria's mansion went into foreclosure within a month, and the rest of us formed a proper neighborhood co-op. No titles, no drama, just honest folks keeping the road graded and the peace restored. I rebuilt my grandfather's cabin with the help of the same neighbors she'd tried to cheat. Every weekend we sanded boards, grilled burgers, and told stories about the day the fake HOA fell. Somewhere in the middle of all that, Rachel and I started something bigger, a nonprofit called Operation Homefront Rights, helping deployed veterans protect their land from fraudsters like her. So far, we've saved 40 families from losing their homes. Some nights I sit on that rebuilt porch watching the lake catch the last light of the day, and I think about how close I came to losing everything. Not to war, but to arrogance and greed dressed up as community rules. The moral's simple. Don't ever let anyone bully you off what's rightfully yours, especially if they hide behind fancy words like association or management. So tell me this. What would you have done if you'd come home to find someone had stolen your family's land while you were serving your country? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about justice, community, and where the line really should be drawn. And if you've ever faced an HOA nightmare of your own, hit that subscribe button because stories like these deserve to be heard, one fight for fairness at a time.